I've decided it's time to get in and dig these sweet potatoes. If you recall, you may have seen the video where I planted these around about 6 months ago. I grew them from my own slips that I had started, and I put in around 6 plants into this bed. Now, they've grown fairly well, but the tops haven't gone absolutely crazy. I think part of it is there's been a little bit too much shade here because the choco vine up above me has cast a lot of shade over this end of the greenhouse, and so that has put the dampener on their growth a little bit. Now, you may recall that this bed was a remnant from straw bale potatoes that I'd grown over the winter, so I had quite a lot of straw on it that was composting down. So I'm interested to see how they've grown. There is showing above the ground already in the mounds some growth. You can see there's some sweet potatoes there to dig. So let's get them out and see what we can find. Just pulling the vines gets a certain amount out, and you see very quickly some nice sweet potatoes coming out. But there is some small ones. I always try to get these out, breaking them as little as possible. What's on the surface doesn't always tell you what's underneath, so you sometimes find quite a nice sweet potato there sitting underneath the surface that you wouldn't have guessed. It's good to extract them very gently so that you don't break them. A bit like archaeology, taking it out very carefully. That's a better one. Because they're growing in this compost, they're coming out very easy and very easy to find. You do need to sift through most of it. Some little fellows. Well, that seems to be the sum total for the year, and I can't say it was a particularly good crop. I think the fact that, as I said, the chocos were giving it a lot of shade really was an inhibiting factor. And looking at the soil, I think the undug soil that was below, because I didn't cultivate this at all, I just left the straw bale on top, acted as a bit of a barrier and meant that the sweet potatoes didn't go down into it. And I noticed from the style that a lot of these have, they were curled along above that hard soil sitting in the compost. And I think it's always good with these to dig quite a hole, fill it with compost that goes down vertically into the ground, because it allows them to develop bigger tubers in the way that they actually like. But look, still not too bad, and it'll be a feed or two out of this. There's quite a few small ones in here that are, well, not worth doing anything except trying to actually grow your next year's crop from. And so what I'll do is I will set some of these aside to actually start the next year's slips from. And while they're fresh, I can easily tell which is the top end and which is the bottom. And so if I set those aside now, top end up in a container, it means that when I come back in the early spring to start the slips, I'll know which way to put them in to actually get them to grow. And you can develop the slips, I found, quite well from these smaller, I don't know what you'd call them, but a little bit meagre sweet potatoes that are not really worth eating. Really, this is a novelty crop for us, to be able to produce something that normally would grow in a more tropical environment. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to go and pay $5 a plant for these, because 6 plants, $30, there is nowhere near $30 worth of sweet potatoes in there. I would be very seriously disappointed. But having produced this for free, then I can't complain at all, and we will enjoy these few sweet potatoes. Of course, with sweet potatoes, the process doesn't end with just getting them out of the ground. They need to be cured if you want them to taste really nice, and that's the process where the starches are converted to sugars. To do this commercially, they use very precise temperatures and humidity between around 27 to 30 degrees Celsius and 90% humidity, and that cures them in just a few days. But here in Tasmania, which is far away from the place that they would normally grow, and at the time of harvest it's quite cool. Morning temperatures are now striking 0, so actually achieving those sort of temperatures other than doing it artificially is not so easy. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it in this plastic container, and I have in it a jar of water, and it's sitting in the sun so that it can warm up like a mini greenhouse. And then at night, when temperatures fall, I can take it and put it near the fire where it can achieve the warmth from the fire. Now there's still going to be some cool period in the mornings where they cool down, or if we have a lot of cloud, it won't be as warm. So the time that they take to cure will be longer than the commercial periods, and so it may be a couple of weeks or so. Another important thing that I didn't mention, which is when you actually take them out of the ground, is not to wash them. I have made that mistake in years previous, and the result is that they tend to rot very quickly. The moisture really doesn't work with them at all. So take them out, let them dry, and don't wash them. That way, even though they've got a little bit of dirt, that'll actually tend to absorb that moisture and help them dry out. Once they've cured, they'll be a lot sweeter and taste better.